Hello, everybody. This is Joe Bullis. I am your clinical coach two for MELS or MSA 605 program for Gardner-Webb University. I know as you are finishing up the past semester and getting prepared for your 605 semester that you're anxious to get started, as it's a busy time finishing up with your course requirements, your internship requirements, preparing for graduation, and so on. So in order to get you off to a good start, I know many times in the past my candidates have asked me to give them some information on some of the internship requirements for the final semester so they can go ahead and start during the lull between one semester and the other. So I'm providing this recording to you and will send it out to you and your Gardner-Webb email address as soon as I have them to kind of give you some preliminary information that you need so you can start the 605 program. As I said, I'm your clinical coach, so I will be helping you in your last semester, preparing for graduation and meeting all the requirements of the internship. You will have a course instructor, of course, and you will work with them in course assignments for Gardner-Webb through their Blackboard course shell, but then you will be working with me to satisfy all your clinical requirements as far as a competency folio, internship log, School of Ed dispositions, final competency analysis, so on and so forth. So you will be working with me in my Blackboard internship shell. So you'll have two shells, and this should be familiar with to you as a person who has gone through the program and finishing up. You know, you have two Blackboard course shells. You have your instructor course shell and your clinical coach internship shell. And we'll be looking at that in just a moment. And of course, you'll be working with your competency folio and the directed response folio in task stream. So my goal for this recording is to go ahead and get you started and just give you a brief overview of the way I work with my candidates as a clinical coach, and then give you some information on the SIAP as you will be preparing for completion of that final evidence as you move forward into completing your competency folio and your internship log. So let me minimize this for now. And I am going to um, pull over um, a page that I'll be working from here in just a moment with this SIAP final evidence. But if you're looking for my internship shell in Blackboard, be sure that you click on and access the one that has my MELS clinical internship underscore Bullis. This is the course shell that I work under. You may see some others with me where it says Instructor Joey Bullis. And of course, I will be working with Dr. Tobias this semester to get you finished. But I do work with several cohorts at one time. So what I do is just work out of this course shell. I keep all my documents there, all my templates and resources there, which are very similar, if not exactly, to contain the ones that you have in your course shell with your particular course instructor. But I just work out of this shelf, and that way I just roll over one cohort to the next. And so if I work with several cohorts, I can keep them all in one spot, and this is more convenient and time effective for me to be able to do that. It makes me a little more effective with my time, and so I can give better support to our students. So I'm going to move this back over. We'll be coming to that back in just a moment. But I do want to make sure that you know you're probably should be looking at my MELS clinical internship shell in Blackboard, but it has underscore Bullis, and that's the one that I'll be working out of this semester. So just real quick, you can go through all of these. Of course, you won't see some of these that are hidden from you, but you can go through, look through this at your leisure. But I have internship shell directions, some templates. We'll be looking at one specific template today here. Um, usually with some cohorts, I'll have a Zoom meeting schedule. For 605, I usually may join your course instructor 1 or 2 times during the semester. And you really don't have a Zoom schedule for 605 students. However, and you will hear me say this several times, if you need an individual Zoom session or a small group session, or you want me to come in to your course Zoom, just make that requirement from your instructor, and I'll come in and provide any assistance. But at any time, I can help you through the telephone, with a phone conversation, with an individual Zoom or a small group Zoom. You just reach out to me and we'll schedule something that meets with both of our calendars, and we'll get together, and I'll be able to offer any assistance that you need as you go through the program. Any video that I provide to the students, I provide that's here in the video library. That's where you'll find copies of some important videos to you. One video in particular would be the video that tells you how to finalize your competency folio and how to put that into the DRF. And that's this video here. You should have already set up your competency folio. That's basically just for 601 students. So you should definitely have already done that. But this is the video that you'll be looking for at the end of the semester as you finish up your competency folio. This folder may change depending on what semester and the other cohorts that I'm working with. But this is the main video that I wanted to reference today. So, and going back to the home page, you'll notice I have 2 sections here. I have all the evidences listed here, specifically the one that you should be dealing with. If you're in the add-on class, it will be the CAP and the SIAP. If you're in a traditional cohort, then it will just be the SIAP for your final semester. But this is where I do all my review, and this is where I ask you to send me the initial draft of each of your individual tasks, and I'll give you feedback on those tasks. It may vary. At 605, mostly it's just me reviewing to make sure that everything looks good, that you have all of the requirements of the rubric inside of that particular task. And then most of the time, I don't have to provide much feedback or suggestions for revision to 605 students. It does happen. It certainly happens. But a lot of times I'll say, hey, this is great. Go ahead and submit for grading. And when I do that, I would ask that you take that once I tell you to submit for grading or upload to the evaluation Dropbox for grading each individual task. That's where this is where you would put it, and this is where I collect a grade. I don't collect a grade until I have given it a review first. So we do the review process. I provide you feedback. Based on that feedback, then you upload to the Dropbox for grading. And I do have to collect grades from you because you are awarded points for the clinical internship shell as you're awarded points in your course assignments from your instructor. So this is how I give you a grade. You will be getting a grade from your course instructor, and you'll also be getting a grade from me. And this is where I collect those grades and justify the grade that I give you. So just if you have any questions on this, it should be very familiar to you, especially if you've had me in the past as a clinical coach. This is the process that I follow, and I know a lot of other clinical coaches do as well. So if it's not familiar or you don't understand this process, reach out to me and we'll take care of that, no problem. So that's just kind of a brief overview just to make sure that you know how to access my clinical internship shell in Blackboard, and also let you know where some of the resources are, but also to kind of let you know the revision process and where I collect grades. So once again, if you have any questions, let me know, we'll work it out. So the remainder of this video, I want to spend time on looking at the SIAP. The SIAP is a unique, and you should be looking now at the SIAP template that's provided to you in your instructor's course shell, and also provided to you in my shell in templates and resources. So you would find this template here under templates and resources in my clinical internship shell. This is the one that I'm referencing here. So the SIAP's a little unique. The SIAP, as you know, is a school improvement action plan, or as you may know, is a school improvement action plan. The 2 resources that you really need to follow to complete this particular evidence would be in the evidence template that I've mentioned and referenced so far, but also in your MSA scale handbook. This is another major resource that you need to reference as you prepare for the SIAP. And so we'll look at the rubric in a minute, but when I look and give feedback on a particular task, I do so in looking at the rubric that's provided in the scale handbook, which is the same rubric that the final evaluator will look at as they're doing your final evaluation on this evidence. This is great because you can go through here and we'll talk briefly about the different tasks available to you for the SIAP, the tasks that you'll need to complete the requirements of to complete the SIAP. We'll look at that, but this is great. It gives you a description. It will give you information, resources that are available to you, instructions how to complete the task, and the prompt for each task. So if you haven't reviewed this, you really need to before you continue or go through and write in the SIAP as you finish your narrative and as you're collecting artifacts. So as I said, the SIAP is a little unique because you can pull from past evidences to include and satisfy the requirements of the SIAP. Just like any school administrator does, you continually look at data that's available to you, quantitative and qualitative data that's available to you from the past and the present to kind of help you guide the direction of your school for the future. And so this is a great evidence. This is a great experience for you to go through the SIAP because you're going to be looking at past data that you've collected through the program, and you're going to use that past data to make present decisions and to guide your school for the future. So you will see as we look at the template in a minute, it talks to you, and also here within the scale handbook, it talks to you about pulling information that you already have. So for task one is a school data project. So you're pulling all data that you have accumulated in the past, and it can come from your evidence. It can come from the APSL, it can come from the APTL, it can come from any evidence in the past where you've collected data. And we're talking about an overall data image of your school. So we're talking about qualitative and quantitative, mostly quantitative data, because you can be looking for things like attendance, discipline data, test results, benchmark results. You can also, if it's available to you, look at EVOS data. So this is a good thing for you to look at and to pull information together and just kind of form your SIAP team and collect that data. You can collect it as a facilitator, and your team can have conversations about the data that you collected and present it to them in task one. So this is all about the quantitative data that's available to you. It's heavy on quantitative, very light on qualitative in the data that you'll be looking at for task one. So you have the school data image project in task one, and task two is kind of the opposite. It's heavy on the qualitative data of your school and light on quantitative data of your school in regards to the teacher working conditions survey. If you're in North Carolina, you're very familiar with the teacher working conditions survey. If you're in South Carolina, I'm sure that there's I know that there's something comparable to that. If you're at a charter school or a private school, then we may have to have a conversation about what the data that you can use. But when I say qualitative as you're looking at people's opinions through a survey, which is quantitative data instrument. So I don't want to mislead you in regards to that. But this is all about where you are looking at the teacher working conditions survey, the working conditions survey of the school that you are currently in. And so you get your SIAP team together, and then you review this type of data, and then you make recommendations and you facilitate this all throughout the SIAP. you are showing your leadership competencies, how you're facilitating a team, how you're guiding a team, how you're responding to a team, and how you're leading them through some heavy lifts of data review for your school. So in task 2, you'll be mainly focusing on this. And yes, you have already done this in your past evidences. So once again, you can pull that information from past evidences into the SIAP. Now, please note, though, this is not a copy and paste evidence. You don't go to the APSL and the APTL and just copy and paste what you've written before and paste it back into the SIAP. You can in certain situations and for certain things, but it all has to be within the context of the SIOP. So you no longer have a PLC team for your APSL. You have a SIOP team. It's no longer recommendations based on the APSL. It's recommendations that maybe from data that you pulled from the APSL or the APTL, but it is recommendations for the overall school improvement action plan. So once again, you're using past information to have an impact on the present situation. So be sure that you phrase anything in your narrative as all within the context of the SIOP. So task 3 is definitely heavy qualitative. So because you're pulling a team of stakeholders together, internal and external, and this is very important that you use external stakeholders, not just parents, but also maybe community members as well, maybe members from community organizations. And you are reviewing the information that you and your team have pulled together from task 1 and the information that you and your team have pulled together from task 2. You're presenting that in a focus group setting and getting their feedback and their perspective on what you share with them. So it's really triangulating the data available to you, overall data available to you for your school. Your improvement data, your hardcore, test data, attendance information, discipline information. How are the working conditions of your school? So you got these 2 data sections right here, and then is what you and your team seeing on paper. Is that the perception of the people that are the stakeholders that are involved in your school? So it's triangulating that, or what you're seeing from the data points that you collected. Is that how people are perceiving it? So that's all about a focus group is that I may have said something on a survey, but I may tell you something different when we're talking face to face in a focus group setting. And so are people saying in person what they may have indicated or what the data indicates on paper? So it's all part of triangulating that data. So this should be containing some comments from the stakeholders as you share with them the information that you got from task 1 and task 2. Task 4 is at the end of task 3, you're going to come up with really the action plan, the school improvement action plan. This will be in an action plan format. So you'll have a strategy, who's responsible, the timeline of completing that strategy, and some of the things that are needed. And that's kind of just comes down to task 4, where you identify resources. All the recommendations that were made in task 1, task 2, and task 3, what resources are needed to implement those recommendations, to implement those strategies. Is it human resources? Is it physical resources, or resources already in place at the school? And you don't need to enter in any new resource because you already have that available. And if you do, just go ahead and indicate that as well. So task 4 is identifying the resources that you would need to implement anything that you talked about in task that you talked about in task 1, task 2, or task 3. And task 5 is simply a graphic organizer of all that you intend to do. It can be a PERT chart, it can be action plan format or template, but it is a graphic representation of what you've identified in the original, in task 1, task 2, task 3, and task 4. It is a graphic representation of what you identified and what you intend to do for your school improvement action plan. Task 6 is just a reflection on the competencies, and that's reflection on all 21 leadership competencies. And that's a reflection as evidenced in the SIAP. And really, if you talk about reflection in the SIAP, you're really talking about reflection on the whole program, because once again, you're going to be pulling in information from past evidences to do the SIOP. So it's really a reflection on the whole program on your leadership competencies. So how have you grown in the 21 areas of leadership competencies as you've been through the program? So you may want to reference several different evidences, but certainly reference in the SIOP, and this is internship experience, clinical experience, coursework experience, just basically for the whole program. How have you grown as a leader in the 21 competencies? So that's an overview of the SIOP. Just want to highlight that once again, everything has to be within the context of the SIOP. If it's, and we'll talk about this in just a minute when we go down to the rubric, if it's not asked for in the rubric, you don't need to do it. A common mistake that 605 students have made in the past is they've just gone, if the template suggests that you pull information from the APSL, well, they just copy and paste the whole APSL into task 1 of the SIOP. Well, that's not really satisfying the requirements of that task 1. Because the rubric doesn't ask for you to conduct any PLC research, doesn't ask for you to conduct any literature review. So it just adds, it's just basically fluff if you do that. And that will extend the page numbers of what you need to be. The SIAP does not need to be a huge document. We recommend anywhere from 70 to 100 pages. That's a recommendation from the state evaluator. If you just go and copy and paste everything you've done and the past evidences into the SIOP, you're talking about probably over a 230, maybe 300 page document. And that is way more than what's needed to satisfy the requirements of the rubric. So make sure that you're very very precise about the information that you pull in to the SIOP, and that it directly correlates to what the rubric asks for. So speaking of the rubric, here's some more information that you can look at for each of the tasks. I'm going to scroll through that really quickly and get down to the rubric. Look at each rubric. As you complete task 1, before you write task 1, and as you complete task 1, see what's required in the rubric. This is just a reiteration of the description, but if you're looking at proficient or accomplished section, then this is what you want to go by right here, either proficient column or the accomplished column. You want to be sure that you hit these areas right here. And this is what I look at when I give feedback and review each of the SIOP tasks. Once again, if it doesn't call for you to write anything about PLC research or literature review, then don't include it. Just make sure you address what's in the rubric for each of the tasks for the SIOP. All right, so once again, I said the Scale Handbook is a good resource, a great resource for you to look at as you are getting ready to do the SIOP and as you're working through the SIOP. Another resource available to you is the template, and I've referenced it several times, but this is a SIOP final evidence template. It's located in your course instructor shell, but it's also located in my clinical internship shell in Blackboard. And this is what I'm saying. As you go through this, I'm going to minimize this for a little bit so we can look at more on the screen. As you go through this, did it a little bit too much there. Okay. As you go through this, it's going to give you information on this is what the SIOP should look like. Once again, in your final version, you do not want to have any highlighted sections. You do not want to have any red font. This is purely these examples right here is just information for you. You don't want to include any of that. I even recommend, I know some clinical coaches and instructors say to put this in here, to copy the task 1 direction, the instruction, and the prompt, but I just think that adds to the length of the paper and is not necessary. I will leave that up to you. You certainly need a cover page, and we can delete this right here. You don't need to do that, but you certainly will need a cover page on the SIOP, your name, this information in bold. If you do want to include it, do not put it on the cover page. I just think it's cleaner if you basically just have the title, Gardner-Webb University, and your name, and it's just cleaner documented. You can put this on the following page, but as I said, this information here that's provided you in the template, I don't think is necessary, and I think it adds to the length. It's certainly great information, and it's certainly valuable for you to read and look over, because it's basically just pulls from the scale handbook. But I don't think it's needed in your final document, your SIAP final evidence narrative, because as I said several times, it just adds to the length of your document, and you probably want to save those pages and characters in your paper for more important things that goes with your SIAP. But you'll see in red is just information for you. Like in task 1, you can find some good information in the SCIP. You can find some good information in the ABSL, the OMA, the CAP. This is saying this is what some of that past data is located at, that you can pull in and use in SIAP task 1. But as I said, this is no longer SCIP data. It's no longer ABSL data. It's no longer OMA data. It's if you pull in into the SIAP, this is all SIAP data. So if you use past figures that you might have labeled, ABSL benchmark results, that now needs to be returned as the SIAP benchmark results. So make sure that you look through the narrative. If you do any copy and paste, you look through the narrative, you remove ABSL, and it's now the SIAP, or anything that attaches it to a past evidence, and the evaluator will be looking for this. So make sure that it is now within the context of the SIAP. So change those acronyms. If I see it when I review, I'll highlight it and let you know that you might have missed one. So make sure that it is now all included as a SIAP and does not contain any references to past evidences. If you have any questions on that, reach out to me. And that's basically the main things that I wanted to pull out from the template, is to make sure that if you include this information here that came from the scale handbook, make sure you remove all the yellow highlights and all the red fonts. And this will kind of guide you as to what your SIAP needs to look like. It also, as far as task 5 goes, it gives you a good representation of what that graphic organizer should look like. But please remember, this should not say ABSL graphic organizer. It should say SIAP. As you pull maybe a graphic organizer that you use in the ABSL into the SIAP, you would need to remove that acronym and put SIAP. Here's an example of a PERT chart if you choose to use that in task 5, and then some examples of all the 21 competencies and some information about that as well. So as I said, the TIS is a great template to use, kind of gets you off to a good start and forming up the SIAP, but just make sure the things that I mentioned you pay attention to, and that is that it all needs to be within the context of the SIAP. And I say that several times because that's a common mistake that candidates have made in the past, and just save time that you go ahead and go into your narrative as you create it for the SIAP with that in mind, then that'll save time as we review each of the individual tasks. So that is a quick overview of the requirements of the SIAP for the MELS 605 class. I hope this video, I hope you find it helpful as you begin to work on this outside of the semester. This will give you a good start on getting that SIAP accomplished. So I hope you find it useful. I'll probably also later on in the semester provide you with another video recording to where we talk about the requirements of the task stream. Really don't need to worry about task stream at this point in time, because you can't complete your task stream requirements until you complete your SIAP requirements. And as you're experienced in MELS program and the MSA program, you know that anything that you do in your competency folio that's artifacts that will be pulled from the SIAP. So get started on the SIAP. I hope that this is good information to you, and I hope you found it useful. Reach out to me if you need any help. And once again, if I need to do an individual Zoom session or a small group session, I'll be happy to do that. Good luck as we prepare for the MES. We're transitioning from MELS and MSA. We're transitioning, and so I'm still getting a little mixed up on the acronym I'm supposed to use in reference to the Garden Well program. So whether you have in your mind is the MELS program or the MSA program, as you prepare for 605 semester, please let me know if I can help you. God bless you all. I hope you and your family stay safe and healthy. Thank you for your time.